Shocking truth behind the Long family massacre. Uncover horrors from August 2025. In a quaint town where everyone knew each other's names, the Long family had lived in quiet tranquility, until one summer night, everything changed. That night, the moon hung low and heavy, casting an eerie glow over their simple, white cottage. It wasn't just another evening, but the beginning of a tale drenched in blood and whispers. The screams echoed for miles, piercing the stillness, leaving haunting echoes that would never fade. People said the silhouettes of the long-dead ancestors hovered around the house, watching, waiting. They claimed shadows roamed the property even during broad daylight, flickering in the corner of your eye, making the hair on your neck stand tall. Folks swore they had seen figures darting past the windows, faces twisted in agony, moaning from the void. Curiosity turned to dread as neighbors gathered, eyes wide and hushed. They exchanged frantic glances, wondering who would be next to uncover the truth behind the tragedy. It was the woods surrounding the property, entwined with secrets, where the real horror thrived. Thick and twisted trees reached out like skeletal hands, sheltering untold horrors beneath the surface. Whispers of a legend seeped into the air, tales of dark rituals and forbidden practices linked to the Long's ancestry. What had they summoned? What darkness had they tantalized in their quest for family fortune? As more unraveling evidence came to light, the townsfolk recoiled in shock. A hidden diary was discovered, detailing the family's sinister history, their ties to the occult. Visions of candlelit summoning circles danced in their minds, shocking them to their cores. All while unspeakable horrors seeped through the cracks in the walls. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. But it didn't stop there. In the depths of that cursed night, an ominous discovery awaited. A local girl, curious and brave, ventured closer to the house, drawn inexplicably to the dark whispers that seemed to beckon her. Each step fueled her pulse louder, quickening with every unanswered question that echoed in her mind. When she finally found the hidden passageway under the roots of a gnarled oak tree, she felt a surge of something. Was it fear? Excitement? Or perhaps a twisted sense of obligation that pulled her forward? Only whispers remained as she crept inside, the chilling scent of damp earth engulfing her. What she uncovered would shake the very foundation of the town, exposing secrets that should have remained buried for all eternity. What awaited her in the shadows? And would anyone be prepared for the truth she would soon unearth? The narrow passage smelled of mold, each breath heavy with the weight of the earth above her. The girl's heart pounded in sync with the distant echoes of her doubts. What if her curiosity unleashed the vengeful spirits rumored to plague the Long family? As her fingers scraped against the walls, she felt the chill of something alive beneath the surface. Was it just her imagination, or was there a presence lurking in the shadows, watching? Deeper she delved, her flashlight flickering with a mind of its own. It danced across the cold stone walls, revealing markings etched long ago, symbols of dark rituals that made her skin crawl. They shimmered ominously, almost inviting her to decipher their meaning. Goosebumps erupted on her arms, chill air wrapping tighter around her, pressing her forward against her better judgment. Then, a low growl reverberated from the darkness ahead. It sent a shock down her spine. Instinctively, she froze, gripping her flashlight tighter. Was it an animal? Or something far more terrifying? The growl deepened, morphing into words, like tongues from the grave. Help us. Her eyes widened, realization washing over her like ice water. These weren't just echoes from the past, they held a pain so raw, it bled into the present. She swallowed hard, biting back the urge to flee. Instead, curiosity clawed at her, compelling her forward. Suddenly, the air thickened, swirling with a spicy, metallic scent. Had she wandered into a trap? An overwhelming heaviness filled every corner of this dreary passageway. She could almost feel the weight of the lost souls, crushed beneath layers of secrecy, begging to be found. Find the truth, the whispers urged, overlapping each other in a cacophony of desperate pleas. She tightened her jaw, her pulse racing. That line echoed harshly in her mind. What truth? What were they trying to uncover? Just then, something caught her eye, a glint behind the shadowy contours of a group of stones. She stepped closer, her heart thrumming against her ribs. It was a small object, partially buried in the earth. Kneeling down, she brushed away the dirt with trembling fingers, revealing an antiquated locket. Its golden surface was tarnished, but the design was intricate, alluring. It felt heavy with untold stories, layered with grief, longing, and dark power, but as she opened it, an icy gust swept through the passage. Shadows danced around her, swirling in chaotic frenzy, distant whispers crescendoing into screams. The frantic voices filled her mind like a fire, a fusion of rage and sorrow. She stumbled back, her heart racing wildly as she realized she had crossed a line, awakening something that was never meant to be disturbed. With the locket clutched in her shaking hand, the walls began to close in, leaving her with one question: was this piece of jewelry the key to unraveling the Long's curse or merely a token of their doom? Just then, the growl emerged again, closer this time, ominous and menacing. The darkness thickened, and her instincts screamed to run. But would she leave with just shadows and echoes behind, or would she discover the truth that could save them all? The ground trembled beneath her feet, and a figure emerged from the shadows, shrouded in darkness and malice. The very air crackled with tension, leaving her gasping for breath, her mind racing. What would it take to survive this encounter? And would she be strong enough to face what lingered in the depths of the Long family's past? The answer loomed, tangled in shadows, waiting for her next move. The figure stepped forward, revealing a ghastly visage, twisted and worn by time. It was a woman, her hair matted, eyes hollow yet ignited with desperate fire. A spectral glow surrounded her, illuminating the contours of her anguished face. The girl's breath caught in her throat. Was she staring at one of the Long family spirits? Leave, now, the phantom hissed, the words laced with a despair profound enough to reach into her very core, but she couldn't move. Chills raced down her spine as the air thickened, almost alive, wrapping around her tighter than a vice. The locket felt like molten lead in her hand, a grim burden she had invited for herself. What do you want? She finally managed to gasp, the words falling into the void like stones into water. You carry their memory, the woman replied, drawing closer. Her voice trembled with weighty sorrow, but it is too late, you've unleashed it. The growl echoed behind the woman, the sound a mere whisper of its former self, now filled with more urgency, more terror. Struggling to understand, the girl clutched the locket tighter. What had she awoken? What ancient horror awaited her? Find the truth, the voice from the shadows uttered, but this time it held a bitter edge, laced with an anger born of decades lost. Before she could process her next move, the darkness around her pulsated, swirling with forgotten memories and twisted tales of betrayal. Images flashed before her eyes: blood-soaked walls, desperate screams, and a family torn apart by a malevolent force. She staggered back, overwhelmed by the weight of their torment. Why did you come here? The woman's gaze pierced through her, demanding an answer. I didn't know. She cried out, frustration mingling with fear. I just wanted to understand. Understanding comes at a price, the spirit warned, her figure flickering like a candle in a storm. And you may not be ready for what you find. A shiver clawed its way down the girl's spine. She was far from ready, but the urge surged within her, a fierce hope intertwined with dread. What do you mean? Her voice cracked, echoing in the darkness, heavy with regrets. What's the truth about the Long family? The spirit hesitated, as if gathering the remnants of courage. There are others. Others who seek what you seek. They are near watching. She pointed toward deeper darkness, where shadows moved restlessly. And they will stop at nothing to silence the past. The girl felt her pulse quicken, awareness spiking as the truth hung heavily in the air. The locket was more than simple jewelry, it was a beacon, an invitation to those who were willing to uncover the twisted legacy of the Long family, to play a dark game of history and consequences. Run! The woman shouted, desperation weaving through her words as cracks began to splinter her form. Run before the truth consumes you. Yet, even as the shadows stirred with purpose, something in the girl responded instead to the spirit's frantic plea. She had to know. Tell me. She shouted, defiance rising within. What do I need to find? The woman's gaze softened for a split second before the shadows swallowed her whole, a tormented scream escaping into the abyss behind the girl. The girl now stood alone, surrounded by deepening shadows that pulsed with a life of their own, a whirlwind of dread surrounding her. With her heart hammering against her ribs, she turned to face the inky void ahead. The whispers grew louder, erupting into a storm of fervent voices calling for guidance. Determination kindled within her as she took a step forward, then another. Would she uncover the truth in time, or would it become a curse that enveloped her? The answer seemed hidden just beyond her reach, deeper into the darkness, beckoning her into the unknown. The shadows danced closer, creeping along the floor like multiple serpents intent on coiling around her. The girl's heart raced, each thud echoing like a war drum in the oppressive silence. She could almost hear the whispers now, a cacophony of desperate pleas for help, stories long buried in the ghostly remnants of the Long family's legacy. Stop, she breathed, a sense of urgency igniting her voice. I have to know. The determination that had propelled her forward now faced an uncertain path. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, yet the promise of revelation pulled her deeper into darkness. Her fingers brushed the locket again, igniting a spark of energy that coursed through her veins. The room around her seemed to shift, revealing more than just dilapidated walls and faded portraits. Each picture held a moment, a laughter, a tear, a scream. The air thickened, wrapping around her, whispering secrets just out of reach. Steps echoed behind her, staccato and unsettling. Turning quickly, she found nothing. The oppressive silence only grew louder, amplifying the quickening beat of her heart. Is someone there? She called, her voice trembling. That in response, the whispers grew into frantic murmurs. Fragments of words collided, forming a narrative she couldn't quite grasp: betrayal, revenge, blood. The images of twisted faces and darkened deeds clawed at her mind, wrapping her in illusions of despair that threatened to swallow her whole. She forced herself to breathe, her breaths shallow and shaky. She had to focus. If she could understand their pain, she might be able to confront whatever awaited. What do you want me to find? Her question pierced the silence, demanding an answer from the shadows. Suddenly, the air crackled with energy, a rush that made the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. A cold breeze swept through the room, carrying an icy whisper that sent chills racing down her spine. Seek the gold, in the ashes, it hissed, haunting yet undeniably alluring. What gold? Her heart skipped a beat. She recalled the stories her grandmother told, the Long family treasure buried during the flames of betrayal. Was it an old wives' tale or a desperate plea for the past to not be forgotten? The shadows seemed to pulse in response to her thoughts, a hint of approval in the air. But with each revelation unraveling before her, a deep foreboding settled in her gut. Was the treasure a means to salvation or a catalyst for more horror? With a fierce jolt, she made a decision. She would find this treasure. Yet, a new fear sank in. If there were others watching, perhaps they too sought it. What price would she pay to uncover the truth? As she moved deeper into the darkness, suddenly, light flickered in the distance, a flame wavering against the oncoming shadows. It felt like a star in the abyss, calling her onward. But she hesitated, heart racing. The warmth was inviting, yet its glow danced teasingly away from her reach. Is it a trap? she wondered. Doubt nagged at her alluringly, but curiosity gnawed harder. She couldn't turn back now. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward once more, drawn toward the flickering flame that might hold answers or might doom her to the cursed legacy of the Long family. A sharp noise echoed behind her, a sudden crash that shattered the tense silence, echoing like a warning bell. The shadows trembled, and her pulse surged. They weren't alone anymore, out in the darkness. Did those watching mean to protect or destroy? One thing was clear, she needed to hurry. The truth lay ahead, but it seemed it wouldn't come without a fight. Who or what was waiting beyond the flickering light? As she pressed forward, a new wave of dread washed over her. The flickering light pulsed like a heartbeat, each moment stretching into eternity. She edged closer, her breath hitching as the warmth brushed against her skin, mingling with the chilling presence of the shadows. Trepidation clawed at her chest, but she couldn't turn away. With each step, the image of fire danced in her mind, the flames that had consumed the Long family and swallowed secrets whole. What had really happened that fateful night? The whispers surged again, words brushing past her ears like icy breath. Awaken, confront, reclaim. A shiver of hope threaded through the fear. Just as she reached the threshold of light, something shifted behind her. The unmistakable sound of footsteps slithered through the darkness, closing in with sinister intent. Panic brewed in her throat, but she couldn't look back. Not yet. The flame was too close, too tantalizing. The room brightened as she entered, revealing a massive, charred hearth, the source of the flicker. Fragments of ash swirled in the air, catching the dim glow in eerie flashes of emotion. And there, amid the ashes, lay an ornate box, blackened and scorched. Her heart raced, pounding louder than the footsteps still inching toward her. This must be it, she whispered to herself, reaching for the latch. Was this the treasure alluded to by the spirits? With trembling fingers, she fumbled the lock open, the mechanisms clicking like a countdown to an explosion. Inside, gleaming gold glimmered dimly in the light. But it wasn't coins or jewels. It was something altogether more unsettling. A collection of delicate trinkets, rings, bracelets, and tiny vials, each suffused with dark energy. The very air crackled, thickening with a malevolence that prickled at her skin. Who dared to defile this place? A voice boomed from the shadows. She spun, the firelight illuminating a figure cloaked in darkness, face obscured but eyes gleaming with malice. It was a tall man, his presence commanding and suffocating. Her stomach soured. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she shouted. But as the words left her mouth, she felt the futility of her protest. The shadows pulsed around him, alive and hungry. "That treasure belongs to those who died here," he hissed, stepping into the light, revealing a face lined with scars that spoke of past betrayals. "You think you can simply take it? You know nothing of the blood it holds." "I know it holds secrets," she countered, her own anger flaring. "Secrets that want to be found." His lips curled into a twisted smile. "Then you are more foolish than I thought. The Long family's past isn't just a story, it's a curse. And by seeking it, you've awoken what was meant to stay buried." The word struck her like lightning. The realization hammered into her what was waiting in the dark wasn't just history, it was a living horror, ready to take shape once again. "How do I stop it?" she demanded, her voice steadying despite the fear gnawing at her resolve. The man laughed, a harsh, rasping noise echoing in the hollow space. "You can't stop it. It will consume you. Just like it did the others." There it was, a threat wrapped in prophecy. As his shadow loomed menacingly closer, she snatched a gold ring from the box, its surface cool against her palm. The whispers began anew, rising into a frenzy as the energy surged through her body. With a newfound determination, she barked, "I won't let it consume me. I will find the truth." The man recoiled, eyes wide. "No!" he roared, but she was already turning, racing back toward the entrance, adrenaline fueling her flight. However, the surrounding shadows snarled and lunged, snapping at her heels. The pulse of the room quickened, and echoes of the Long family's despair filled her ears, maddening and relentless. Would she find the truth and survive? The specter of chaos loomed, eager to ensnare her. As darkness and flame intertwined, she surged onward, desperate for answers. But what awaited beyond the shadows? A new terror would soon emerge, and the real horror was just beginning to unfold. She burst through the doorway, heart hammering, lungs burning as the shadows clawed at her back, desperate to pull her into their depths. Instinct drove her forward, feet pounding against the wooden floor, the echoes of her flight mixing with the anguished whispers of the past. The air felt heavy, thickening with every frantic breath she took. Her mind raced. What had she just unleashed? The ring nestled in her palm pulsed with a life of its own, thrumming in time with her heartbeat. It was a beacon of hope or a harbinger of doom. Which was it? As she reached the hallway that led to the staircase, a frigid gust swept through, slamming the door shut behind her with a violent crash. The sound sliced through her, a finality that chilled her spine. The man, the cursed guardian, remained within, clutching the shadows as if they were his only comrades. She couldn't let him catch her. Run. Just run. She whispered to herself, and her legs propelled her forward into the living area, a space hauntingly preserved, yet shrouded with an aura of despair. Dust motes floated lazily in the fading light, casting long shadows that seemed to dance and taunt her. Suddenly, the air shifted. A cold breath, as if from a grave, slipped across the back of her neck, and a low growl vibrated through the silence. The shadows curled menacingly, forming into shapes that twisted into long-forgotten figures. They loomed, reaching out as if they were the remnants of the Long family themselves, forever tied to their bloody past. "Help us," a voice echoed, soft yet piercing, wrapping around her like a vice. "You must uncover the truth before it consumes you too." "No." She gasped, fighting the overwhelming urge to turn and face them, to acknowledge what she had stumbled into. But she couldn't stop. Not yet. Not when the truth was closer than ever. Her fingers tightened around the ring, determination fighting against the roiling dread. Charging through the living room, she saw the staircase, but to reach it meant navigating a minefield of memories of pain, and of loss. Each step toward the stairs felt like an affront to the spirits whispering through the air. She could almost see their faces, twisted with anger and sorrow, clawing for justice. But justice came at a cost. The tapestry of the Long family's history was woven with blood, betrayal, and dark magic. A wave of guilt crashed over her. What if she was the one who roused their anger? What if her search for the truth was the final nail in their coffins? Just then, out of the corner of her eye, she glimpsed movement. A shadow darted past her, too quick to pinpoint. Her pulse quickened, fear ripping through her. She was not alone here. "Who's there?" she called, her voice shaking despite her resolve. Silence answered. She shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts. The whispers surged, rising once more, a cacophony of desperation and fury, urging her to listen. "Find him. Find the boy," they cried. Images flooded her mind, pictures of fire, screams, and a child's laughter turned to cries of fear. That was it. The boy. He must have known something. But where was he now? Suddenly, a sharp pain lanced through her as a shadow lunged from below, wrapping around her ankles like a serpent. She stumbled, teetering on the edge of a new abyss. With a swift pull, she tore free, adrenaline flooding her veins. She leaped toward the staircase, each stride a gamble against the onslaught of darkness snapping at her heels. The whispers, pressing her onward, were growing louder, insistent. As she reached the top, she turned back, breath ragged, her heart pounding in her ears. Below her, shadows writhed and twisted, merging into the form of that scarred figure, his eyes now burning with fury and despair. "Your quest has only just begun," he sneered, voice dripping with venom. With one last glance, she bolted down the narrow hallway, each door a mystery waiting to be unlocked. What lay behind them? Could what she discovered in this haunted house, under the pressure of its tormented history, hold the key to saving herself or sealing her fate? Forever, as she reached for the first doorknob, the weight of the shadows loomed heavy around her. The grip of fear was tightening, but her need for the truth was louder, almost deafening. Who was the boy? And what would she confront when she opened that door? The door creaked as she twisted the knob, its protest echoing down the empty hallway. It was a heavy sound, filled with long-held secrets yearning to be set free. She hesitated, heart racing, as the whispers climbed in urgency. "Unlock it. Unlock it," they urged, a tide of voices building in fervor. With a sudden push, the door swung open, revealing a small, dust-choked room. Old paintings hung crookedly on the walls, faces of people long gone, eyes staring with an unsettling awareness. Tattered remnants of toys lay scattered on the floor, remnants of a childhood stolen. She stepped inside, each footfall muted by the thick layer of dust, a grave reminder of the time that had languished here. Taking a deep breath, she fought against the chill creeping up her spine. This was where it had happened. The boy's laughter had turned to despair. Pushing furniture aside, her heart started to thump painfully in her chest. She scanned the room for anything that might point her toward the truth, the boy, or even the guardian lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, beneath a collapsed bookshelf, she spotted something glinting. She knelt and reached in, fingers brushing against the cool metal. It was a small locket, intricate and heavy in her palm. She opened it, and inside lay the picture of a boy with bright eyes that seemed to hold an entire universe of secrets. "Lucas," she whispered, the name slipping out unbidden. Why did it feel so familiar? As if the lock of his hair and the mischievous smile belonged to a world she once knew, one that had twisted into dark corners since a thundering sound jolted her back to reality. It was a voice, deep, gravelly, reverberating through the walls, causing dust to tremble down like old bones. "You shouldn't be here," it boomed, rising in fury. She scrambled to her feet, heart racing as the guardian's shadow filled the doorway, the last vestiges of hope slipping through her fingers. "No! Wait!" she shouted, desperate. She could feel the tension crackling in the air, the shadows swirling as if alive. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I want to help him." The figure paused, his dark silhouette momentarily framed in the light of the hallway. It was then that she noticed the way he flinched, the shadows around him faltering. "Help? You don't understand. The truth is a cold beast." Questions bubbled up, but before she could voice them, shadows surged forward, clawing at her like desperate hands. She stumbled back, the locket slipping from her grasp, falling to the ground, clattering against the wooden floor, a soft, whispering echo of a life that was tortured and lost. As the guardian's eyes glinted with unrestrained rage, she heard him whisper, "You cannot save him, he is part of the darkness now." A surge of determination gripped her heart. "No! I can break it!" she shouted, feeling the weight of countless souls pressing down on her. With a sudden, fierce clarity, she realized that the locket was not merely a memento, it was a key. A key to uncovering the hidden past, to unveil the guilt that bound them all. She lunged toward it, but a shadow lashed out, wrapping around her wrist. She cried out, feeling its icy grip. "Leave now, or you will perish with the rest." He growled, but something in his voice wavered, as if the depth of his pain could fracture. In that instant, a glimmer of hope ignited within her. There was a chance. If the darkness could be bound to this boy's fate, perhaps it could be unraveled too. "Lucas! I'll find you. Just hold on." She yelled into the swirling mist, her voice surging above the chaos, but as the shadows thickened, it felt like time was running out. The truth was close, but so was the danger, tangled deeper than she ever expected. Frantic, she dove for the locket, but as her fingers closed around it, the room erupted in chaos. Shadows exploded, twisting violently. As she clutched the locket tightly, it pulsed warm against her skin, a beacon. In the whirlwind of dark and light, a new scream shattered the air, a child's voice mingling with the guardian's warning, and then, the door behind her slammed shut, swallowing the light, leaving her trapped within a realm of shadows and despair. What was the connection between the boy and the guardian? Could she truly break the chains binding Lucas to the darkness, or would she too become just another wisp lost in the echoes of the past? The shadows writhed like serpents, closing in around her. She felt the icy breath of the dark entity against her neck, a whisper of dread that sent shivers racing down her spine. "You're too late," a voice hissed, laden with anguish. The weight of the locket grew heavier, pulling her deeper into the nightmare. "Lucas!" she cried, fighting against the encroaching darkness. "I want to let you go." But her words hung in the air, quickly swallowed by the insatiable gloom. The shadows whispered secrets, their words almost like a chant, a macabre lullaby that threatened to pull her under. The guardian's figure flickered in and out of focus, his eyes a tempest of sorrow and rage. "You chase a ghost, a memory never meant to be disturbed," he roared, but the tremor in his tone betrayed a rawness that lingered beneath the fury. Did he still care for the boy? Questions swirled like smoke, suffocating her thoughts. As shadows stretched toward her, she gripped the locket, feeling warmth seep from it into her palm. There was power in that warmth, a reminder of the boy's laughter buried somewhere in her memory. "I won't fail you, Lucas," she whispered fiercely, determination surging within her. "Foolish girl," the guardian growled, agony lacing his voice. "You don't understand the darkness you invite." He stepped closer, and for a brief moment, she saw pain flicker across his face, replacing the rage. "Then show me," she shouted, her voice rising against the wave of despair. "Tell me what happened. I want to know." The shadows recoiled as if her voice had physical form. The guardian hesitated, his posture shifting conflicted. The locket pulsed with an intensity that seemed to reach toward him, beckoning. "Do you think a child's innocence can save you from this hell?" he retorted, but there was no bite in his words. He seemed caught between the desire to protect and the burden of sorrow. "Maybe it doesn't have to save me," she countered, stepping closer. "But it can save Lucas. I can feel it. I can break this curse." With a sudden surge, the shadows surged again, crashing against her like tidal waves. She stumbled back, but the locket remained steady in her grip. It was imbued with a love she didn't fully understand, and it steered her where the darkness sought to claim her. "You should run," he yelled, desperation creeping into his tone. "Leave while you still can." Ignoring his warning, she pressed forward. "I refuse to abandon him." The room shuddered in response, the walls groaning as if the house itself protested her presence. The air thickened. Then, she heard it, a soft, fleeting giggle. It echoed from deeper within the shadows, a sound too innocent for this place of loss. A shiver of hope threaded through her chest. "Lucas, is that you?" she whispered, heart colliding with a fragile dream. The guardian's facade cracked, and she saw a flash of vulnerability. "You're not ready for the truth," he murmured, almost pleading. But hope surged. If she could find this boy, if she could break the shadows that bound him, perhaps she could save them both. With renewed determination, she took a breath and lunged deeper into the room, shadows whipping around her like furious winds. The boundaries of darkness twisted and churned, closing in on her with an oppressive force. Just then, the locket burst free from her grasp, floating before her, glowing brighter than she had ever seen. The shadows receded, reluctantly pulled back by the locket's light. The guardian's expression hardened once more, a protective wall rising between them. "Do not touch it," he bellowed yet again, eyes wild. Ignoring him, she reached out, heart pounding. The light enveloped her, and suddenly, visions flashed before her eyes, images of laughter and love entwined with screams of despair. "Lucas!" she cried again, lost in the whirlwind of memories. But as she reached for the locket, the shriek of the room reached a deafening crescendo, a final warning that shattered the last remnants of hope. Then something shifted. The shadows coalesced into a singular form, towering and malignant. A final cry echoed, a sound so raw and haunted it set her bones on fire. "Help me!" And in that moment of desperation, she felt her heart tear, a razor-thin line between light and darkness. Would she become the beacon that could guide Lucas back, or would she too be swept into the void, forever lost in the echoes of a tragedy she had yet to unravel? As the darkness threatened to consume her, a new question loomed: could she find the strength to face the truth, or would the truth shatter everything she believed? Light exploded around her as the locket flared with a blinding intensity, washing over the shadows that clawed at her with unseen hands. A moment of clarity shattered through the chaos. The malicious figure looming above was not just a manifestation of darkness, it seemed wrapped in layers of sorrow and malice, tangled together like a twisted vine. "Get out!" the guardian shouted, fear mixing with his anger. "You don't know what you're unleashing." But she pressed on, the warmth from the locket pulsing like a heartbeat, matching the rhythm of her racing pulse. "I can save him." The shadows seethed, their whispers morphing into anguished wails as if they were guardians of some dark secret. "Lucas!" she called again, her voice stronger now, echoing defiantly in the darkness. "Show yourself." The shadows hesitated. For a fleeting heartbeat, the cold clamoring retreated as though holding its breath. That giggle returned, bright and ethereal, slicing through the oppressive air. "Help me please." Desperation twisted her insides. "I'm coming for you," she cried, braving the tempest swirling around her. With each step forward, she felt the barrier of darkness begin to quiver and crack, the weight of despair and fear pushing against her with phantom hands. She lunged toward the locket, stretching out her fingers, pulling against the shadows that sought to drag her down. The guardian, torn between duty and pity, surged forward, panic etched into his features. "You won't survive." "I don't care," she shouted, tears mixing with the determination flooding her veins. "I refuse to live in fear." With a fierce, piercing scream, she seized the locket, the bright light erupting stronger than ever. The shadows screamed, their collective despair swelling into a cacophony that set her ears ringing. Images flashed before her eyes, a child's laughter echoing in a sunlit meadow, a girl chasing butterflies, and a sudden darkness swallowing her whole. Lucas. The name tasted like defiance on her tongue, as she felt a rush of power emanating from the locket, pure, unyielding light that cut through the darkness like a knife. She envisioned his face, the sweet, innocent smile that had melted her heart. "Lucas, I'm here." The shadows recoiled, forming a whirlpool, swirling and shifting like smoke. For a second, she glimpsed a small figure at the edge of her vision, an outline of a boy, disoriented and alone. The guardian's anguished roar mixed with the howling shadows. "Get back!" he bellowed, desperation coloring his voice. "This isn't a game." But her heart hammered with a singular purpose. It wasn't a game. It was everything. As the locket pulsed violently in her grip, the shadows exploded outward, crashing back like waves retreating from a storm. In that moment of chaos, a figure stumbled forward, a small silhouette cloaked in darkness. "Lucas!" she cried, reaching out with every ounce of her being. He turned toward her, face shadowed but eyes wide and bright. "Help me." His voice was a whisper against the gale of despair. A wave of crippling sorrow washed over her. The darkness had not just taken Lucas, it had twisted him into something unrecognizable. What was he now? Suddenly, she felt a shift deep within her. A flicker of the truth danced around the edges of her consciousness, something brutally clear. Lucas wasn't just another victim, he was tied to this malevolence with unbreakable threads. As the shadows surged one more time, she realized they were intertwined, they couldn't exist without each other. "Stop!" she screamed, holding her ground. "You can't take him." And in that moment, a painful truth reared its head. What if she became the darkness herself to save him? The thought unfurled with an intoxicating allure, with the locket's light wrapping around her like armor, she took a step closer to the shadows, heart racing. Lucas! But was she willing to pay the price? And how much darkness would it take to rescue him? A fissure tore through the air, sparking an uncertainty that resonated deep in her soul. Would her sacrifice shatter what remained of them both, or would it be the key to unlocking freedom? The shadows halted, pulsating and flickering, as if they awaited her next move, a gamble with fate that would define them forever. What would be unveiled in the light of truth? And was the truth even worth knowing? The darkness rippled as she held the locket tightly, her heart racing. The shadows writhed around her, but determination pierced through the suffocating dread. She had to do this for Lucas. "I won't let them take you," she yelled again, her voice fierce as a thunderstorm. As if summoned by her words, a faint, silvery light flickered beyond the shadows. It grew brighter, illuminating the contours of the room and striking at the heart of the darkness. "Look for the love," a whisper pressed on the winds that twisted around her. She focused on the warmth radiating from the locket, the memory it held, a shimmering bond that would not break. It wasn't merely a trinket, it was the essence of a child's laughter, the promise of hope wrapped in fragile beauty. With a surge of courage, she called out, "Lucas! I'm coming!" Her feet moved of their own accord, step by step, deeper into the fray where shadows pulsed and tumbled like a wild sea. The guardian now flickered, appearing torn, his shadowy form flickering like a fraying knot. "You don't understand," he shouted, voice heavy with anger and pain. "You can't fight this." But she wouldn't yield. Each heartbeat resonated with a raw determination, a vow wrapped in the echo of betrayal and loss. "No one deserves to suffer like this," she managed to scream over the howls of the darkness. She envisioned Lucas, that innocent smile, bright against the suffocating despair. Suddenly, the locket burst forth a wave of brilliance that cut through the shadows, dispelling a whirlwind of shadows that tried to wrap around her. The light cascaded over the twisted forms, revealing their anguished faces of the Long family, eyes filled with memories too painful to bear. "You carry their weight," they whispered, voices trembling with fears untold. "You hold the truth, but at what cost?" "What cost?" "I will bear anything for his freedom," she shouted, releasing her own pain into the air, shattering the walls of her fears. The guardian's form flickered again, an echo of sorrow staining his shadow. "You don't comprehend what is being asked," he said, softer now, his voice laced with an unforgotten nostalgia. "You may just become what you fight against." Rage and despair danced in her chest. "I refuse to be afraid of shadows. I am the light." With those words, she charged forward, the pulsating warmth of the locket enveloping her, guiding her toward Lucas. "Lucas! I'm here." As she pressed deeper into the darkness, a shape began to materialize, a small figure whose outline was blurred by sorrow. It shuddered, and she took another step, reaching out as the locket shimmered, casting a warm glow that pierced the chaos. "Help!" Lucas's voice echoed, trepidation tinged with hope. "You have to help me." She lunged forward, putting her hand on the glowing locket before her. It felt alive, thrumming with longing. "Together!" she commanded, knowing now that they were bound. With one final push, she called out the little boy's name, Lucas. In that moment, a wave of light erupted from the locket, blindingly bright, a radiant force against the shadows. The dark figures howled in torment, their screams rising to a chorus of anguish as the menacing entity that lurked in the shadows attempted to encase Lucas in darkness. "Help me reach him!" she cried, her voice echoing as she felt threads of energy entwine them both. And then she was there, standing before Lucas, his wide, frightened eyes reflecting the light. As she grasped his small hands in hers, she could feel the shadows clinging to him, twisting around them like thorns but failing to pierce the warmth surrounding them. The energy surged. "Let me take your pain," she whispered fiercely, determination coursing through her veins. "Together, we can break this." As they both focused on the locket, the memories flooded back, the laughter, the light, all weaving into an invisible thread pulling them back from the edge. In that radiant moment, the shadows twisted one last time, then finally peeled away, relinquishing their hold. They let out a final, venomous shriek that echoed off the walls before condensing into a vast column of darkness that began to break apart. As light enveloped them, the Guardian's voice pierced through, wrestling against the fading darkness. "You've done it, but at a price." But she was ready. Whatever was left to pay, she would. They would fight together, she would carry the burden of the past to save the innocent. Just then, the shadows deflated completely, shriveling back into nothingness. The warmth of the light surged, clean and pure, washing over both her and Lucas, freeing them from the chains of anguish. Together, they stood in the aftermath, trembling and alive, breathing in the fresh air of freedom. As the dust settled around them, they realized the house was still, silent, free from the weight of generations of pain. They looked deep into each other's eyes, the connection renewed, bonded by both light and darkness. Together, they would tell their story, remembering those who surrendered for them. "We can reclaim it," she whispered, knowing that the truth had finally emerged. With their hands still intertwined, they walked toward the open door, a symbol of new beginnings and hope beyond shadows. As they stepped outside, the vibrant colors of day spilled over them, washing away remnants of the nightmares. She felt a warmth in her chest, a spark of laughter that took flight like birds across a clear blue sky. They had faced the darkness and they were victorious. It was time now to honor that legacy, to move forward into the light, but here's the deal: you need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will send shivers down your spine. Your support truly makes a difference. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your thoughts and reactions. I want to hear all your theories about this wild ride. And please, don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to see how the truth can shatter chains. Join the community, we're just getting started.